Hey y'all, thank you for clicking on this video. If you are here to heal, I really commend you and I appreciate you. And if you are here to relate to one another, you are not alone. I was in the same boat. Shoot, I'm still in the same boat. But this is a disclaimer to explain that this is a series about my childhood and adulthood trauma experiences that were developed from my parents. The purpose is to target a community of women who can relate to my upbringing, my feelings, and my story. This isn't to slander, bash, judge, or harm anyone's character of the parties involved. Through this series, I'm to share my story while doing my best at aiming to please God through this content. I disclaim that I do love my family, and if any of what I share they happen to see, I would only hope that they hear me when I say my story is for me, my healing, and my audience, to help us all get through the things that have caused this trauma. If any other family members watching this get triggered by my story, please remember this is my truth. And sometimes I can hurt someone's feelings due to it not being the other person's truth, or what I say may strike a nerve because it holds truth. In whichever way, this is my perception, and if it is not agreed to, I respect that. As long as the people know their pure intentions, my words shouldn't ruffle any feathers. Me telling my story is no different than a singer singing about their heartbreak or a breakup and singing it to the whole world. So I pray that everyone can heal, mature in their faith, and practice being the person that God has planned for us to be. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. Yes, it has been a minute since I've been here, but I was in the midst of trying to figure out what content I want to create. For the past 2-3 years, I didn't just want to do beauty content. I was going through and still going through a lot of family trauma that is shaping me into the woman that I am today, which I'm so very blessed to be the woman I am today. I'm so thankful to God. All glory to him. This is episode 1 of what I'm going to call the vulnerability series. As you saw, I just did a disclaimer that will be in front of each video upon this series. Again, the purpose is just to truly reach out to a community of young girls and women to just relate to each other and figure out how we can heal. It's been a long road. Some of us are still going through it, and I just want to be able to find all strategies of the devil and knock it away. You know what I'm saying? Use the whole armor of God to fight all of this evil, negative, judgmental, all of that away from us, okay? So the first episode, I wanted to talk about something light, something a little bit more vague, which would be addressing the fathers, the present fathers within the households, but you don't have a close relationship with your daughters. I can't believe I'm actually talking to the men, but I'm low-key still talking to the women, because if I am you and you're like me, we relate, we here with it. So I just want to start off kind of identifying the type of daughter that I am. So I'm going to speak for myself, because I don't want anybody just jump in this video and be like, I don't need that, I didn't need that. So I'm going to address to y'all the kind of woman I am, the kind of daughter I am, just more so characteristics. So I'm the daughter that needed more affection growing up. I definitely need to hear stuff like, I love you, I see you doing good in school, I'm very proud of you. I needed a lot of acknowledgement as well. I needed a parent that was more attentive to just who I was, honestly. And I also believe every kid needs constructive criticism, but for me, delivery and body language was really important when conveying those things to me as a child. Even as an adult, delivery and body language is still so important to me due to trauma. That's a basis of how I was, as far as what I needed growing up from my parents. More so my father. My mom, I think she literally did the best as a parent, as a mother in my childhood. So, this is really for the fathers. I'm going to give you guys some tips. I have notes at the side if you see me keep looking at the side, because I can go off track a lot. I'm going to give some examples about myself. Yeah, so let's get into it. So number 1, I feel like you should learn who your daughter is. Like I explained what I needed, pay attention to your daughter and see how she reacts in certain situations. Notice when she starts to cry. Notice when she's happy. Does she love being around her family? Does she love being around her friends? Does she love certain hobbies? Does she need that acknowledgement? Does she need a little bit more help in school? Is she excelling in school, and does she need to be praised for that, or is she okay without it? Like, learn your child. Don't just go off of how you think you need to raise a child, because a child is not just a child, they are their own self. The child is an individual being. So the same way that a father can be different from the next father, all fathers are not the same. So just pay attention that every child that you have, even if it's within the same family, understand that they are all different, and understand that they need different things. One child may not need as much attention as the next. Another child may need a lot of attention, and that can be time consuming, but having children, that is what it consists of, your attentiveness. So my next tip would be to imagine the man that you would want your daughter to marry. Do you represent that man? Do you show a really good example of being a phenomenal husband, a phenomenal father? Do you show her examples? Show her what it's like for a husband to lead, and lead his family, and let alone, on my beliefs, leading his family through God. You should do consistent things like opening her doors, listening to her vent, engage in her conversations. Don't just say, okay, yeah. Teach her about what men like, not necessarily just about what you like. Just teach her about men in general, how they think, how you guys operate. Teach her how to be a helper as the lady, as a young girl, as a woman, as a wife. Don't command her to do things aggressively. Do activities with your daughter. And that is another thing that I would say you could get to know her by paying attention to how she acts in activities. When you guys go to the movies, or when you guys go out to dinner, like, is your daughter respectful? Is your daughter, curious? Is your daughter quiet? Is your daughter shy? Like, there's a lot of things to pay attention to, and if some of these things can be looked at as things we need to work on, you gotta find a good way to allow your discipline to be received by your daughter. So for example, I was a curious girl growing up. I asked a lot of questions, and my dad would, if I asked a question that he felt was something I should know, that he felt it may have been common sense, he'd sometimes just roll his eyes, or shake his head and smile as if I should know. And one thing about my dad is, I don't know if he remembered, but he sheltered me a lot. He kept me from a lot of things, which could be a good thing, but for me, it wasn't that great. I was a lot slower than the average, elementary school kid, than the average middle school kid, because I was sheltered from so many things. And it's where's the fine line to exposing your kids to adult things and still keeping them a kid? What's the capacity of what your kid is able to understand? Don't feed your kid more than what they're able to understand. I felt like I was capable of understanding much more, but my dad didn't allow that. Probably because of his own fears or wanting to protect me, but it wasn't good for me in the long run. But when those moments came, when he kind of had those negative body languages, I could definitely see myself, starting to get disrespectful. How was I supposed to know? I definitely feel like I've done that for sure, because I do that now. Why are you expecting me to know this? And I, was never educated about this, or I'm not even around that activity to even know what it is. And so even in asking those questions, sometimes he wouldn't answer. Most of the time I would say he'd answer, but the times that he didn't, it really made me upset. It made me feel like you don't care, because I'm asking a genuine question. It may not be genuine for you, it may be common sense for you, But, you know, through my childhood, you was 30 years old and I'm like freaking 10 years old. Like, what do you mean? So with such a negative like reaction to my curiosity, that's definitely made me feel insecure about being slow, number one, because I didn't have a lot of knowledge about anything. If anything, I was book smart in school. That's really it. Was not street smart at all. Still struggling. Because him not answering my questions or like thinking I should know the answer, that also kind of went hand in hand with me starting to become rebellious. When he wouldn't answer my questions or felt like I should know them, I definitely felt invalidated. Like, you don't care about me. And not that he doesn't, but this is the feeling that I felt. Like, you don't care about me asking you a question. You're hearing me, but you're ignoring me because you don't want to answer. And then you're also ignoring me because you think I should know the answer. Like, and then it also, the insecurity also caused me, like, if I did happen to know the answer, I would be like, oh, like, I start to feel stupid. Like, I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but that's just like a slight example of like something that my dad has done that has kind of shaped me into kind of being insecure in my confidence in myself. And so if I would be able to communicate with my dad what I would have appreciated back then, it's more so like, if you think I should already know the answer and I'm looking at you like I don't know the answer, I'm really looking for the answer, part of me would just say, just answer the question. That would be number one. Number two would be like, are you really asking the question, or, you know, do you think you could figure out the answer? That's another way, because in that moment, it wouldn't have me lose my confidence. It would allow me to dig deeper, like, maybe put context clues together about whatever question I'm asking and say like, oh, okay, is it this? And you could tell me yes or no. And, you know, I feel like there were different ways to go about it. And I can agree. I feel like, you know, with kids, they ask the silliest things, absolutely. But I definitely feel like my dad could have went differently about the reaction he had to the questions. And sometimes if you find for your daughter that they're not responding well to, you know, a certain action of yours, a certain discipline of yours, you have to come up with a new strategy. And if you start running out of ideas, ask them, what do you want me to say in this moment? I'm trying to teach you about X, Y, and Z. And do you understand where I'm coming from? They may say yes, they may say no. If they say yes, they're like, okay, how can I deliver this to you without possibly hurting your feelings? Oh, they may say, I mean, it's still gonna hurt my feelings, but I understand where you're coming from. Or they can say, oh, I wish you would have just told me sooner, or I wish you would have just, you know, used a different word vocabulary instead of using such a aggressive or harsh word that made me feel less than, you know. And obviously they're also kids, so they're not really going to communicate that well, but you have to work with your kid. Having a kid, y'all better know, when y'all have a kid, it requires time. Okay, your patience needs to be all the way up there. It needs to be up there with God, because raising a kid is not easy. I don't have any kids, but I already know, because I know the type of kid that I was. So I'm gonna sum that up here. I don't even know if I gave like that good of pointers. I think the moral of this video was basically just learning your child and learning strategies in which they can receive your discipline, receive your communication, just receive anything that you're trying to teach them to be good people in the world. So I really hope I was able to relay something a little helpful, and I hope that this content is something that, you know, I can really find a community here, and you know, we can all start healing and doing better with our children, doing better with our parents too. You know, yeah. So this is episode 1. Hopefully I get better with like just knowing what I'm gonna say, because I definitely was looking to the side. If anything, you know, we only get better with practice. So yeah, you guys, that was it for today. I will be back with another episode very soon. See you in the next one. Bye.